Yo, what's going on, E7 fam? I'm Sue, and I'm fashionably late to the party on this topic, but in this video, I'll give you my 2 cents on who I think the best RGB heroes are to take with your Epic Dash selector. Life has kind of gotten in the way over the last couple of months, made it hard to meet some deadlines in some of these videos, and originally I was thinking about skipping this one, but I saw a number of you in my chats on streams, as well as in my Discord, were hoping that I would put this out, so who am I to disappoint? It's fun to yap about characters for a little bit, although in this one I'll spend a little bit less time than I usually do on the videos. I will still have the infographic with where the character is good, why you would take them, and an example build, but rather than spend 30 to 60 seconds talking about each of these characters, in order to keep the runtime down in the video, in order to keep the editing process of this video short, I'm only going to spend like 1 sentence talking about the character, like what their primary thing is in 1 sentence, and then just go next, again, in order to keep the video length down and the editing. If you have any questions about the character, as always, you can just ask me about it down in the comment section below, or hit me up on Discord. I will be more than happy to answer any questions you have about any of these characters. So let's waste no time and jump right into it. So the best characters are going to be in the top tier here, which is worth a fully decked selector. These are the rarer selectors, the ones that give you the character at plus 15 skill level, level 60, and fully awakened. So yeah, these are pretty much the best 5. If you want to just look at it, pick these, that's probably it. Underneath them is Lidica, who is a little bit of a special case and not necessarily worth a fully decked selector, but just as good as these other ones. I'll talk about her when we get to her. Strong are characters that I think are very usable in a lot of scenarios, or they're just particularly very strong in one niche, or they are somewhat rare to acquire. We'll talk a little bit about those when we get down to that. Usable are characters that have some use cases in the current meta for like PvP, Guild Wars, things like that. Trial of the Constellation, these are characters that are good as I'm recording this video in the Trial of the Constellation game mode. But do keep in mind it is a beta and will change to some degree next month. So some of these picks are a bit riskier because, well, they might not necessarily be usable, right? They might change the structure of the fight, the mechanics of the fight, and then these characters lose a lot of value. And then, if nothing else, is pretty self-explanatory. They're better than all the ones under Not Worth It, but not too much better. I probably won't really elaborate on these characters. You could basically just take a look at them here, take a screenshot of them. I'll pretty much just cover everybody up to Trial of the Constellations. These characters are a lot less desirable, in my opinion, but again, still better than everything under Not Worth It. And then already free, these are the characters you shouldn't take because they're already free. And then these ones are the ones you can't take. Alright, let's waste no time and we'll jump into our first one under worth a fully decked selector. And that is my girl, Celine. So Celine is a single target DPS that specializes in punishing your opponent's non-attack skills. Now, admittedly, as I am recording this video, she is not the strongest. She has kind of fallen out of favor just a little bit, but it's still worth having the character in your pocket because she is used in quite a number of metas. Maybe now is not her meta, but next season she might be just as good as she was in the past. So that's why she still lands here. After Celine is Fenne. Fenne is probably the best character overall to take with your fully decked selector. Character is the best PvE DPS in the entire game. It's not even particularly close. The distant second place, as much as I hate to say it, is Commander Lorena. So if you could only take one character with your fully decked selector, I do think it should be Fenne. After Fenne, we go to Jenua, who's just a very strong single target DPS that's very good in some PvE game modes and still hanging on and, somewhat usable in PvP game modes. After that, we come to Mort. Mort is just an obnoxiously good character. He is very tanky, decent damage, shuts off an entire game mechanic, making it so that no players can counter outside of the Mort himself. And then Advent Mortalix's ultimate is just a ridiculous 2-turn stun that sometimes ignores effect resistance. After Mort, the last one in this category is Red Politis. Politis is like the counterpart to Celine. Celine is a non-attack skill punishing character for single targets. Politis is an AoE character that punishes non-attack skills. Considering Ahmed just got an exclusive equipment, Politis has kind of come back into favor as Celine is kind of falling out of favor. If one is good, the other is usually not too far behind. So again, these characters, Politis and Celine, I think every count should have access to. They've been relevant for like 3+ years at this point. I don't see them ever really falling out of favor. Now, after the fully decked selector characters, we move on to Lidica, who is a bit of a special case. I think overall, she is the second strongest character after Fenne. It's like Fenne, then Mort and Lidica are tied as the best characters overall you could take on this actual event. because she's just a ridiculous opener that does so much stuff. She stops counterattacks, strips buffs, sets up most of the aggressive things in the entire game. Now, the reason I don't have her under worth a fully decked selector is because, like, you could play her at like +3 skill level and she works perfectly fine. Most of her skill levels increase her damage, so if you want to take somebody else that's more pressing, like a damage dealer, like somebody in the strong category next with your fully decked selector, I encourage you to do so. But Lidica is still head and shoulders over most other characters. She's just not worth a fully decked selector because you don't really get a ton of value out of her extra skill levels. Now, after Lidica, we move into the strong characters, starting with Aria. Now, Aria is a very interesting character. Essentially, you want to use her S3 the Humble Hour to stealth the rest of her teammates and put up her counterattack stance, where hopefully the enemy will be forced to single target, funnel all of their attacks into her, and she will get a bunch of AoE counters, and that could hopefully carry a game for you. She is a very difficult character to build, so she's not super newbie friendly, but she is really good in a lot of spots in the game. You could play her in, some PvE content like Adventure. You could use her in Abyss. Some people use her for Wyvern. She's also decent in Guild Wars, decent in World Arena. The problem is that she's never really the best overall character. She's just usable in most content, which is why she lands here. After Aria, we come to Edda, who's basically baby's first cleave. She's essentially an AoE mage that, as long as you have a book on her and can soul burn her, she could kind of cleave a team by herself with proper setup. She's a very easy to use, new player friendly character that can be used in Adventure to have some kind of AoE DPS to kind of clear things out, and then you could use her in Guild Wars and to a lesser extent World Arena if you could set her up properly. After Edda comes Elena. Elena is kind of like the third person in that like PvP starter kit of Celine and Politis. She's like the blue version of that. She doesn't necessarily punish non-attack skills, but she does punish AoE attack skills very hard, which are another hallmark of a lot of the aggressive team comps in the game. So essentially, you're going to always want to have this character in your back pocket when you're fighting AoE DPS. Whether that's a fast team like a Cleave or a slow team like Harsetti, you will find some value for the character. After Elena comes Eligos. Eligos is just a strong, fast, single target DPS that specializes in dealing with evasion characters. After Eligos, we come to Roana. Roana is just a really busted character in the game. Her passive Vigilant Eye invalidates a lot of PvE content and also auto-wins some PvP matchups, assuming that the thing you're fighting has AoE counterattacks, AoE dual attacks, or AoE extra attacks. And finally, the last character in this tier is Tenebria, which is always my controversial pick on any of these tier lists. The reason why Tenebria lands here is she is one of the strongest and best characters in the entire game when it comes to hard content, specifically Abyss post floor 100. She is a godsend for floors like 102 and 105, and she also has some usage in content such as Advent, and she's the second best character after Ball and Saison, who's not really used anywhere else, for the Blooming Snagglitch Expedition. So very niche usage, but she's very, very good at what she does. Now, normally that would, land her under, if nothing else, or usable, but the thing about Tenebria is she has no story summon, meaning that she is exceedingly rare amongst the base 5-star characters in the game. The only ways for you to acquire the character is to get lucky on a Covenant summon, a daily summon, or if Smog8 decides to give her a rate up. There's no other way for you to acquire the character. So when it comes to selectors, I think she is a much higher priority target considering how rare she is amongst the base 5-star pool. So being able to acquire this character early as a new player and user when it comes to the late game hard content, having that character in your back pocket, to me, that elevates her, that makes her worth a pick. That's why she lands here in the strong tier. Next up, we move to the usable tier characters, starting with Alencia. Alencia is primarily played due to her synergy with the limited hero Young Senya in Guild War offense, and very rarely World Arena. After that, we come to Krau, who is a rock-solid tank. His S3, Summon Siegfried, allows him to kill a single target when he's actually low on health, making him pretty good against certain characters like Afternoon Soak Flan in PvP. After that, we come to Nahkwol, who's a pretty strong control character that's good at stopping counterattacks as well as sealing passives. She's basically good if you don't really have Numa and Luna, or you already have Lidica and are looking for an alternative. Those characters kind of outclass her, but she's still usable. After that, we come to Schniel, who's pretty much just a hard counter to Death Dealer Ray, and even then I use that term loosely. I'm not a fan of him, but hey, he still shows up in meta World Arena matchups when Death Dealer Ray does, so that's why he's here. After that, we come to Cez, who is basically kind of like a bridge slash finisher for cleave compositions. You usually use him in things like regular arena offense, but not much else. Very rarely you will see him in World Arena. Basically, he's just a cleave character versus AI for PvP. After that, we come to Yulha, who's basically just a green version of Krau. Basically, if you're in the market for a tank and you want somebody who has the ability to at least execute a character when the tank gets low on HP, Yulha is another option. And then finally, the last character here in this tier is going to be Vildred, who's just a pretty good AoE DPS for PvP as well as PvE. He's not the best option, but he still lands here because he's great at farming for a new player and when they are first starting out in Epic 7, and he's still usable late game by players who are very aggressive in PvP, largely due to the fact that his imprint is going to be speed, which is the best one in the game, so getting a bunch of dupe copies of Vildred can never really truly be bad. Moving on to Trial of the Constellations, the first one here is going to be Beehoo, who is good versus the Earth fight, the grass boss. Basically, you need burns on your team. He's very good at burns. He's pretty much the best in slot option alongside of Holiday, Fenne, Red Shuri, and Aria as far as I'm aware, unless things have changed since last month. After that, we come to Charles, who is going to be the character that you're going to be playing against the blue boss, since the boss requires you to have a lot of counterattacking characters, and since his changes, he now has a 100% chance to counterattack, making him perfect for that fight. Command model Laika is after that, and that's largely because the blue fight for Trial of the Constellations is just very, very annoying with a lot of debuffs, and she is a green character that you could slap on counter set that just happens to be able to spam immunity and keep your character safe for that fight. After that, we come to ERVALEN. The blue boss fight has a perk that makes it so that if your front slot is a green thief with a counter attack, you get a bonus and it will make the fight easier. ERVALEN is one of two thieves that can do that, so if you're in the market for it and this character speaks to you more than Violet, feel free to take them. After that, we come to Tywin. Tywin is essentially a defense-breaking knight. The red fight wants your front slot to be a defense-breaking knight, and he's pretty much your best option for it. Honestly, Fenne can most likely just solo the fight anyway, so he's a lot lower on priority, I feel like, than others, but hey, if for some reason you want to take him, here he is. And then finally, the last character here in the tier is Violet, who is the other green thief that has counter-attacking stance that gets a bonus that you can play for the blue fight. I personally like him more than ERVALEN, but that's just because I think he's a cool character in general. And then we come to the if nothing else tier, and as you can see, it's these characters: Abigail, Araminta, Bellona, Destina, Immortal Wukong, Red Lilias, Peyra, and Robbie. These all have various different use cases. They have kind of like one-offs. For example, Abigail here, good for like Guild Wars sometimes. Araminta is just basically your budget option if you don't have Silverblade Araminta for PvP. Bellona, good for new players in PvE, but kind of falls off. Destina is just a cleanser slash reviver. Immortal Wukong is sometimes paired with Young Senya in scenarios where Mort and Alencia aren't available. Lilius is just a jack-of-all-trades knight that sometimes sees use in like Guild War defenses or Nightmare Labyrinth, but that's going away in a couple of weeks as of the recording of this video. Peyra is sometimes used as a third pick ban protection kind of gimmick in PvP, but not really the greatest right now. And then we have Red Robbie, who just sometimes is played versus like Harsetti matchups and is like okay for new players in PvE. And that's pretty much going to do it for the Epic Dash RGB Hero Selector tier list. If you have any questions, as always, again, ask me down in the comment section below, or just hit me up on my Discord, which is linked down in this video's description. There will be an accompanying 5-star artifact tier list for this Epic Dash event. It should probably go up tomorrow, like the day after this video airs, so look forward to that. Once it's available, I will link it down in this video's description as well. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your week, and I'll catch you in the next one. Later now.